thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Kernels. I'm Angie Manfredi. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the State Library of Iowa, and our guest today is Cassi Elton, who is the Youth Services Librarian at the Solon Public Library here in Solon, Iowa. I said here even though I'm not technically there, so I'm here was more like Iowa. So I want to tell you a little bit about Kernels. Kernels is an ongoing series of short videos from the State Library of Iowa. Each installment is a small pop of professional development that gets right to the core of a library program, service, or library methodology applied in a public library setting. Kernels feature in-practice librarians like Cassi, discussing their work so that other in-practice librarians can learn from their direct experience. Kernels are posted directly publicly to the State Library of Iowa's Continuing Education YouTube channel, which is where you might be viewing this right now. And there's a whole playlist of them, so check them out. And more are added frequently, so keep an eye tuned to the playlist or subscribe to the State Library's website to the State Library's YouTube channel if you want to be kept abreast. They're also cross-posted to Iowa Learns, which is our learning management system. So Iowa librarians can watch them there, which is where you may be watching them. For Iowa librarians, you can earn half an hour of continuing education credit for watching each kernel and completing a learning summary. There's more information for how to do that in Iowa Learns. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to want to take that, you're going to want to record that time in Iowa Learns. There's also an area at the State Library's website where you'll be able to find contact information, handouts, and resource lists as mentioned during our sessions. We'll refer back to that often, and you can find information about all of that and more by checking out the links in the description of this video. I always love saying that because I feel like a real famous YouTuber by saying, check the description for more info. So with that out of the way, Cassi, as I mentioned, who is the Youth Services Librarian at Solon, is joining us today. And today she is going to be talking to us about using a ukulele in Storytime. And I know that this is a high interest topic. We get questions about it a lot. And it's really popular both in library land for brand new Storytime librarians and also Storytime librarians who've been doing Storytime for a long time. So with that in mind, today one of the things we're looking at is not just like why a ukulele, but Cassie's going to talk about some ways it's informed and enhanced her Storytime practice, as well as why she recommends using it. And she's also going to give you some nitty-gritty specifics for those of you that feel intimidated, like I don't play musical instruments, I can't do that, I don't even know where she's going to give you some nitty-gritty details about the very basics of it. And Cassi, I wanted to start by that. First of all, thank you for being here. Next, I would say I'm going to switch so that you are the main viewer now, everybody, because you've had enough of my face at this point. But I was wondering if you could kind of start by that, people who feel like they're intimidated because they don't have like super instrumental skills. Tell us about how would you welcome someone who has that fear?
Sure. So to be totally transparent, I do have additional musical experience. I grew up playing the piano, I played bass guitar, I play some other instruments. But ukulele is a great gateway instrument, and you don't have to have any of that previous experience to play ukulele. It helps, of course, just like you build, building blocks, but you absolutely don't need to know anything before picking up a ukulele. And I'll also say that I learned ukulele for my library interview. And so I had been playing ukulele for a week. When I played it, we had to do a practice story time for my interview. And I brought it and I played it for my interview. And then I got the job. So it definitely is that extra little thing that can put you over the top.
And you and I have talked about this before. How many chords do you need to know to be successful in doing ukulele in your story time?
Yeah, so I've got some songs that I'm going to share with our handout that have like 3 or 4 chords, but there are songs that you can play that just use 2 chords, and there are a lot of kid songs that only use 2 chords, and you're good to go.
So if you're like, 2 chords, you could start with 2 chords.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we also discussed was ways in which we think, especially now, so many people are doing story times online and virtually, ways we think that the ukulele enhances and really supports that. So can you kind of talk to that about ways that you're looking for something now, especially in this period, that a ukulele could fulfill?
Yeah, so when you do virtual story times, especially if you're going to do like a recorded one that you're going to post later, it's a perfect opportunity to try something new, because if you're recording it and you mess up, you can just start over. So there's really no pressure. You can give it as many tries as you want. But even if you're doing it live, I found that families and kids especially are really excited about an instrument being a part of story time. And so they are really forgiving and accepting of things not being totally perfect.
So can you show us your ukulele?
Yes, absolutely. So this is my ukulele that I use. It's actually my husband's that he got on a family trip many years ago to Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii, but that's where this ukulele is from. And so this is actually kind of a nicer one, but again, you don't need a super nice ukulele to do this. Do you want me to kind of start talking about how I use it? Okay. So for my story times, I only use the ukulele twice, and it is for the welcome song and the goodbye song. And so it's a visual reminder to families that like we're getting started now and we're finishing up now. And it means that I only have to know how to play 2 songs on the ukulele. And because I'm playing them every week, I get more comfortable every week with that repetition. And the families learn the songs too, which is really fun. So the welcome song that I do with the ukulele is a variation on If You're Happy and You Know It. And so I've re-lyriced it to be If You Want to Read a Book. And we do the multiple verses. So we clap our hands, we stomp our feet, we twirl around, which is always their favorite. And then we whisper hooray at the end to kind of like calm back down. And then my goodbye song is another song that I've just changed the lyrics to. It's based on the tune I Sing a Song, or I Sing a Song, You Sing a Song, which actually the joke is on me, because I went back and re-listened to that song again in preparation for this. And I realized that the tune has totally mutated, and it's actually not really based on that song anymore, but that was the original inspiration. And I changed the words so it's called We Read a Book. And it's sort of like the recap of like, these are the things that we did in story time. And so the welcome song, if you want to read a book, it has 4 chords, or excuse me, it has 3 chords. And then the goodbye song has 4 chords, and all of those chords overlap. So if you learn the first song, you basically already know the second song, which is really convenient. So I can play you my welcome song if you want to read a book. And the fun thing is, because it's the tune of If You're Happy and You Know It, if you want to do a different welcome song and you want to change the words to be about something else but use the same tune, you can use the same chords. Or if you want to just have the ukulele be like a guest in your story time, you could bring it in for If You're Happy and You Know It for a story time about feelings or something, and to kind of like get your feet wet to see if it's something you want to incorporate all the time. So the big thing about if you're going to use any kind of instrument in story time and you want to do actions along with your song, you want to review those ahead of time, because you can't always incorporate them when you're playing the instrument. With If You're Happy and You Know It, it works out okay because you do like the claps at the end of the verse. But like, for example, when I'm playing the ukulele, I don't let go and like do a full clap. I just kind of tap on the body of the ukulele. And when I'm recording, I don't spin around, I just gesture for the kids to spin around. And when we're doing it in person, I'll stand up with them and twirl around. But you just need to kind of make some adjustments because your hands are busy playing the instrument when normally you might be doing like a finger play or something to go along with it. So I'll just do the one verse of If You Want to Read a Book so that you can hear the words, and it'll be on the handout as well. And before I start, I'll just say that one of my favorite things about doing any kinds of songs in story time is that you can absolutely change the words to any song to be about what you want. And so that's one of the fun things that I love about the welcome and the goodbye song, is that these are songs that I wrote, changed the words to, for my story times. And so you are totally welcome to use these verbatim, or you can kind of tweak them and have them different for whatever you want to highlight for your story times. So here we go. If you want to read a book, clap your hands. If you want to read a book, clap your hands. If you want to read a book, have a seat and take a look. If you want to read a book, clap your hands. And so I don't know if you noticed, so the very first chord is a C, and it just is on the 3rd fret. So each of these are called frets, and it's just on the 3rd fret right there, and I'm just using my 3rd finger, and it's all open strings. So you play, for all of these chords, you're gonna play all 4 strings every time, so it's super easy. I strum the ukulele with my thumb like this, but you can also use a pick, or some people use their 1st finger. I like using the meat, I guess, of my thumb. I think it makes it a little bit softer. But if you need to amplify more for a bigger space, then getting a pick or using your nail makes it louder. So our first chord is just a C, so pretty straightforward. And then our next chord is a G7, which sounds fancy, but it's totally not. And so you just move your 3rd finger to the 2nd fret, and then you put your 1st finger on the 1st fret and your 2nd finger here. And so that's what that sounds like. And then you go back to the C chord, and then you go up to the F, which is your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret and your 1st finger on the 1st fret. I don't know if you can see the strings. Yep. And then you go back to C and then G7. So pretty straightforward. If you know a little bit more about music, you know that this is in the key of C. And so it's the 1st chord, the 5th chord, 1st, 4th, and 1st, which is a pretty standard setup for any kind of song to use those kinds of chords. So that's the 1st chord, or excuse me, the 1st song. So if you have a ukulele at home, you can totally try these chords out, and now you know a song. My husband teases me that every song I play has the same strumming pattern, and he's totally right, it absolutely does. And that's fine because kids' songs are really simple. And so you can absolutely just do the same thing every time, and it's just fun and people love it.
And so that's kind of the follow-up there. What would you say to someone who their fear is like, oh my gosh, patrons will get bored, or they'll be like, you're not doing it right, Miss Cassi, you only know 2 songs. Like, what has been the patron reaction, both from adults and kid patrons, of having the ukulele and having repetitive songs?
Right. So kids love the ukulele. When I do outreach story times, I will let them, after we're all done with story time, come up and strum the strings on the ukulele before they like go to their next activity, which they like go crazy for. I did it once sort of like as a one-off, and then I should have known better, because every time I went after that, they were like, okay, and then now we get to play. And it's super fun for them to have that hands-on experience, because not all kids have instruments at home that they get to play around with or have seen in person before. And so that's a really great like additional tactile learning experience. In terms of being sort of intimidated to play in front of adults, I definitely felt that way when I first started, and especially like getting that first note when you start singing, making sure that it's going to match the chord that you're going to play. And so one thing that helped for me is that I figured out what the first note of the song was, and I would play it on the ukulele, and so I would match it kind of in my head. But even then, sometimes when I first started, I would be totally off, like I wouldn't be able to match it. And a couple of times I would just stop and say, can someone help me find the note? And there would be a parent who go, it's right here. And I'd go, okay, thanks. and then we would get started. I even had a preschool teacher who has a master's degree in music that I would go visit her
No
classes.
pressure.
Right, yeah, exactly. And a couple of times she said, you're singing too low. Kids have a higher register, they need to sing higher. And so I just said, okay, great, can you start us off then? And I would just have her lead the song that way instead. And so you definitely, like, you might get some feedback like that, and you just need to, be open to it, and don't be embarrassed. When people say things like that, they're excited to share what they know with you. And so just invite them to share it, with everybody.
And it turns it into an opportunity for participation. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
To say, be engaged in this moment. Like we're engaging in this moment, which is the goal of any story time. The goal of any story time is to have adults engage.
Yes,
I always
exactly.
say, like it's not if the kid likes a book, what I mean, kids are easy. They like everything. No, it's not if the kids to get adults engaged, because in that moment they're learning something. And so that's one of my unpopular opinions about story time.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And do you feel like it's one of the things you talked about at the beginning was that it's a cue when the ukulele comes out, they know story time is starting. Do you think have you seen that kind of in person? Let's pretend we're in person again someday. Have you seen that kind of in person correlation of
Yep,
making
absolutely.
it easier?
So,
Making
yeah.
it easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like magic. But something else you can do too is it's not like you pull up the ukulele and you just start right away. Like I usually do like a beginning strum as sort of like that extra cue where they're like, oh, right, we're getting started. And then it also helps me find that beginning note too, especially if I'm feeling a little bit nervous about it. And then you go, okay, is everybody ready? And in fact, with our welcome song, I also do like a little warm up because we start with clapping. We get our clapping hands ready. And so we wiggle our fingers and we shake our hands and we rub them together really fast, really fast, really fast. And we used to put them on our cheeks, but now we put them on our knees.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. And then we get started with the song.
And I will say too, so at the library I used to work at, we had a morning dance party, and then we had a breather, and then we did story time. And one of my coworkers would walk through the library playing the ukulele. And so because we'd already had the dance party, and then we were playing all around the library, we were in the toy area, we were at the coloring table, we were looking at books, but she would walk around and play the ukulele. And when kids and parents heard the ukulele, they knew story time was starting, and they would
Oh, I love that idea.
they would follow her like the Pied Piper, right? We used to say that's what it was, because they would hear that. And also we had a lot of English wasn't their first language parents, so you could have walked through the library and screamed at the top of your lungs, story time starting, and they'd be like, I don't know what that means. But when you hear the ukulele,
yeah, that extra cue.
You don't need a language for the ukulele. So I think there's a lot of ways to use it. So have you been using it in your online story times? Have you continued to use it in your recordings?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that is so tricky right now is that everything is different. And so maintaining as much consistency as possible. And so doing those welcome and goodbye songs and keeping them the same is a really easy way to do that.
And one of the links we'll include is to your libraries. Do you record them and have them on YouTube? Where do you keep your?
Yep, we do. We have them on our website and also on YouTube.
So I'll include that as one of the links so that people can check out how you do it. We'll include that as one of our links.
Absolutely.
And so now you've sold me. Okay, I've been sold.
Great.
How do I get a ukulele? How do I know what is a good one? I can't go to Hawaii. I wish I could go to Hawaii.
Right, I know.
How do I get a ukulele?
So there are lots of options. If you have a local music store that is open, that you feel comfortable going to, you can always go there and ask for recommendations. When you're just getting started out, don't get the fanciest, most expensive ukulele. You don't need it. I usually recommend getting maybe not the cheapest ukulele, but like the second to cheapest ukulele. Because you want it to sound nice. You don't want the strings to buzz when you play them. You don't want it to break really easily. But you also don't need to invest like hundreds or thousands of dollars on an instrument that you like are just learning how to play.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like that. I like the advice of don't get the cheapest one, maybe get the second cheapest one. Because if you look, you can see they have ukuleles online that are like $1.
Right.
So like maybe not get the $1 one, maybe not get the $3 ukulele.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you have a 2-year-old that is excited about the ukulele, get them the $1 ukulele. But for you, treat yourself to something just a little bit nicer than that.
Yeah. And this is a general question. What do you think it's added to your story time? Like what is an added benefit that you've seen since you introduced it? And to outreach too.
Sure. Well, like we've already talked about, it's an additional learning experience. I mean, anytime we use music in story time, it's great, but especially when you can do live music, and as opposed to like playing a song on a CD or something, which is also fun and fine and gets kids engaged. But when it's live and in person, it's that additional learning opportunity. Not only do they see the instrument, they start to understand how noise is made on an instrument, how you make music. They get that opportunity to touch it if you let them. And it also is, you know, you're sort of a role model where they go, oh, like lots of different people play instruments. Like maybe I could play an instrument. You don't have to be, you know, a rock star to,
Or
to
be
play
in
an
a
instrument in front
symphony
of people.
orchestra.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, yep.
Yep. And so that kind of relates to, what ages do you use this with?
Yeah, so I use the ukulele for our preschool story time, which our library is ages like 2 to 5. Sometimes older siblings are there too, which is awesome, and they're totally welcome. But I mostly use it for that pre-K age. Elementary school, maybe early elementary school, I think they'd be really into it. Maybe even later elementary school too. But after that, I haven't used it with older kids.
I've also thought too that it would be cool at a baby time, especially if you're doing something for babies virtually, because a lot of people have really struggled with like, what can we do for babies virtually? And singing a song while an adult is holding that baby is a huge thing. And also the baby time that we had at the library I used to work at, I didn't have a baby with me. So I had a doll, and I would like do the motions with the doll. But also, like, what if you were playing, what if you, for one of those baby songs, and you did hop up, or and you did hop up ladies or something, you did a bounce, or you did a back and forth, and what you used the ukulele, you would maybe even feel less awkward being the person not holding a baby.
Yeah, for sure. With our, yeah, because we do baby garden, baby time songs, and a lot of those have like motions and things. But yeah, I mean, some of them it's like, okay, we're just gonna sway now. So yeah, that would be perfect to bring out the ukulele and sing along and accompany it, and it would, yeah, definitely add to that kind of program.
Well, this is coming to the end of our time together. So a couple wrap-up things. One
Sure.
is, tell us, I heard you mention this handout. Tell me more about what's on it or what it will help me do.
Yeah, so the handout will have the words and the chords to the welcome song that I played for you and the goodbye song that I will play for you before we're done today. And it also has the chord charts, which shows you where to put your fingers, which finger to put where, and which strings to play for those chords. You have to know a little bit about how to read those charts to be able to understand them, but quick Googling, you can have like a YouTube where someone will walk through exactly what part everything is. And once you understand, once you are literate in how to read chord charts, then, you know, then you can expand and do all kinds of different chords.
And you used a keyword, which is another bonus to using musical instruments in Storytime. It is another type of literacy. And that is information that we can put out for parents and for adults when we're doing these story times or when we're recording these videos. So that's another thing I think that I alluded to earlier about how do we get adults involved. I think another thing that's a real advantage of using an instrument like a ukulele is you can say to the adults in the room what you, Cassie, have just said to me. You can talk about how it's being a model, a role model. You can talk about how it's, you know, all of that, those words modeling. This is helping your child play on, is helping develop the fine motor skills in your hands. So it gives you as the provider, as the program provider, it gives you a chance to extend that conversation about different types of early literacy. I loved what you said earlier about understanding that notes make up music, which is understanding sound. You can sound out words with it. You could break down a word and sound it out with it to understand that sounds make up words, that all of those are really great early literacy skills. And so sometimes I think when people think of the ukulele, they're like, oh, I would play a song with it, but there's so many other ways that you can use it to enrich a program.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll also say, like, ukulele, like you mentioned, is like a really popular instrument right now to use in story time. But if you play any other kind of instrument, even if you don't incorporate it every week, definitely bring it in and show the kids your instrument. I just, for the month of August, the theme for Storytime was music. And so because we were doing a recorded story time, I thought, well, let's try something like extra, you know, that we can use movie magic for. And so what I did is each week I introduced a new instrument, and we used it for the welcome song. And we layered the instruments on top of each other. So like the first week it was me playing the ukulele, and then the second week I brought in my guitar. And so then we had 2 videos where it was Miss Cassi with the ukulele and Miss Cassi with the guitar playing the welcome song. And then we added a piano, which normally, like, I can't bring a piano into the library. And, you know, and so it's super fun. Am I going to bring the guitar every time? No, of course not. But it was fun to bring it in that time and talk to kids about string instruments and, you know, all the different kinds of instruments and the sounds that they make. And if you're excited about it, the kids will be excited about it.
And I say all the time, you can be a rock star. You can be a rock star. So at the library that I worked at, that I've now alluded to, everybody who worked there but me in children's was super musical. They all played a musical instrument but me. So it always turned into things. The coworker who would go around and play the ukulele was a very serious cello player, and she taught, so she brought that in one time for story time. And you want to talk about kids freaking out. They'd never seen what even, and now exactly what you're saying. What is one of the advantages of doing all these recorded? Well, I can't get a piano to story time, but I can record. I can record a section on the piano, and then I can bring it in. And so I think, again, one of the things that we wanted to record this conversation now was because we wanted people to think about the ways that they could use this in the material that we're creating now during socially distanced programmed. And I really liked what you said at the beginning about now is the time to kind of work to overcome that anxiety about it, because you can do it 15 times until you get it right in the recorded version. So that, I've always been anxious about it. Now's your chance to.
Yeah, and I will say that I have even done that, where I've started and then I'm like, oh, nope, I forgot to switch chords for some reason. Okay, stop, start over. And it, you know, and it's no big deal. You just do it till you get it right.
And again, we'll put in the links in the descriptions. We'll link to all those videos that Cassi was talking about, so you can see the musical week of story time. So I think that's magnificent. And the handout that was alluded to, for those of you, it's the one that we talked about. There will be a section for it on the website. It'll be uploaded into Iowa Shares. And if you have, why do I keep saying Iowa Shares? Iowa Learns, you guys. If you have questions about any of this, or you want a pep talk, Cassi would be happy to talk to you and walk you through it. And so we're going to give you your contact information. But before we do that, you have to play the goodbye song.
We got to do the goodbye
song.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
and I've got one more story before I do the goodbye song.
Hit me.
We're ready. So you mentioned earlier that, like, you can be a rock star in your library. And I will say that there's one little boy that comes to story time, and for Christmas last year, I think he got like a toy ukulele. And so now at home they play story time. And he is Miss Cassi, and he plays the ukulele, and then his mom and his baby sister sit on the carpet for the songs and the books. And when his mom told me that story, oh, my heart like just exploded.
And the way that then he, as the older sibling, is modeling that behavior for his sister. So all of that, and everything we talked about, how now giving them the ability to be like, yeah, I don't have to be, I can play an instrument. I can, sure I can. So I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect story to end on. Okay, let's hear it.
So
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So this is the song we read a book. Like I said, it was sort of inspired by I Sing a Song, You Sing a Song, but I changed it because my vocal range is not as wide as the original song. And so I made adjustments, which
and that's a thing you can
totally do. Yep, exactly. And so in our song, we talk about how we read a book, we played a game, and we sang a song, because those are 3 things that I try to incorporate in all my story times. But if you don't do games, then you can change that word to be something else. I'm assuming you do books, of course, it's story time, and songs because you're singing a song.
Because you have the ukulele.
Yeah, because you've got your ukulele. So here we go. And this one doesn't have any actions to it. We just kind of like sway when we sing it.
To chill out, to relax.
Yep, exactly. We read a book and we played a game and we sang a song together. We read a book and we played a game. We had a fun adventure. Now go read a book, then go play a game, and sing a little too. Go read a book, then go play a game. We'll see you back here soon. There you go.
It's great. It's great. And it's nice and relaxing. Yeah, as opposed to your opener, which is a little more like, let's move around, let's get the wiggles out. And now this is kind of like we've chilled out and we're transitioning on to the next thing.
Yep,
I love it. I love it. So will you hold your ukulele up again, bring it up to show us all. So the other thing too about a ukulele, I want to just mention the last detail. How easy is that to carry places?
It is so easy because it is small. Kids are always, and we talk about like what the ukulele is, and kids always say, it's a guitar. And I say, no, it's much smaller than a guitar. And so it was fun when I did bring my guitar in, because I could say, look how big this is compared to our ukulele that you're used to.
And again, giving them vocabulary, building vocabulary, adding new words, another early literacy skill that you get to talk about.
Yep, you can even do counting, right? Because how many strings does a ukulele have? It has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And it is very portable. That's another thing I think that's a big sell. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's easy to carry. So I think that's another thing that you gotta throw out there as an advantage of it, as opposed to say your piano.
Right, yeah, piano, not quite so portable.
Do you have any other last thoughts that you would like to share? Any other encouragement?
I think just if you have been wanting to bring an instrument into your story time, if you've been wanting to try ukulele, go for it. Ukulele is one of the easier string instruments to play. The chord shapes, so that's what it's called, like this is a shape and this is a shape, are really easy because the neck is so small. You're not like stretching your fingers all over, which just makes it really accessible. I know that sometimes when I am playing my guitar, the chord shapes are like a little too big for my hands. One last thing I forgot to mention is the ukulele is in my vocal range, which is really great. If it's not, if you want to sing higher, or if you want the ukulele to be higher and you need to sing just like a little bit lower, you can get a capo, which I don't have mine here. Mine is at home. But what a capo does is it squeezes the strings and it shortens them. And so it changes the key of your song, but you don't have to change your chord shapes. So if you are playing the C chord and it's just a little bit off for you, get a capo and mess around with it. And you can put it anywhere on the neck. And if you've got your capo on, you can still do that same C chord shape, and it'll match better where you want to sing. So that's another thing I'll just throw out there.
And that again ties to the very first thing we talked about why it's so perfect for recorded programming. Now's the time for you to mess around and get really familiar with it and do 800 takes.
Yep. And your songs can also morph. Like I said, when I was like, I sing a song, you sing a song. And then I listened to it and I was like, it is not that song anymore. It is actually very different, which, like I mentioned, was because my vocal range was different. And so the more I played it, the more I kind of adjusted it so that it was comfortable. And I don't think families even noticed, honestly. It was just sort of a natural progression. So don't worry about like, last week I did it this way and this week I'm doing it this way. It's fine. Don't sweat it.
I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm going to get a $3 one. No, probably. I'm not. But thank you so much. That was super motivational. And I hope that all of you, I hope that you got a ton of ideas. One of the goals is that you you're going to do everything exactly the way Cassie's doing, but that you use this kernel to build and grow something else, something that fits what works for your program, something that fits what works with your comfort level, but you feel a little bit pushed past your comfort level, because y'all know that's my favorite thing. And there's also so many varieties to what you can do with this. You saw at the end, we were talking about just some of the ways you can use it to be early literacy information tool. You can take it on outreach. You can do it. Cassie mentioned this, you don't have to do the beginning and closing song with it. You can bring it out in the middle of story time and do one special song about it. There's so many different ways. The goal of this, we hope, is to get you thinking and excited about that. So now I'm going to do my formal wrap up. and it's going to have a little more information. And then I'm going to share my contact information and Cassie's contact information so that you have it on screen and you don't have to hear us repeat it out loud. So thank you for watching this episode of Kernels. And thank you to Cassi for taking your time and effort to be a part of this today. We're super grateful to you. If you're watching this on YouTube, please check out the links in the description for more info and more downloadable links. Everything will be down in there. If you've got a little bit of time, feel free to watch another kernel. And if you are doing something at your library, a program, an initiative, a practice, something you've just started, something the kids are wild about, and it also, Kernels isn't just about youth services, as you can tell if you've browsed the list. It's for all services in the library. So if you have an amazing, something that's really informed your adult programming, if you have something that really has taken your programming for senior citizens to the next level, if you want to talk to us about a new initiative that you have, anything like that, reach out, tell us what you think would make a great kernel, and we want to hear about it. Reach out and tell us all about it. And if it's youth services, you should know that I've already started pressuring you about it because that's what I do. So now I'm going to share our contact information. If you want, like I said, if you want to contact me, if you want to contact Cassi, I'm going to hold this up on the screen for a little while. There's our contact information. Thank you so much for watching today. And Cassi, thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Angie. It's been great.
And again, if you want a pep talk, you want a little more ukulele info, Cassi is here to walk you through the strings and the things that make no sense to me that you just said, and I would be like, oh yeah, no, that sounds cool, okay. And you can get a hold of me anytime. This is my contact information, and I would love to hear from you. Even if you have an idea for an adult services kernel, I'm happy to pass you on to the right people in continuing education. So thank you so much, and join us next time. Thank you again, Cassi.